Right, all right, all right. Welcome, 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 everybody. Can you guys all hear me okay? Thumbs up, we're good? Okay, you can definitely hear me. Wonderful. Well, here we are again. Happy Wednesday. If this is your first time with us, this is our weekly Creators Live. And we come to you every single Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to give you free jet coaching that you can then take back to your shops or your operations or wherever to implement to level up your free jet printing game. And so this is our service to you. I hope you like it. For those of you who are already thinking it, yes, at some point we will be posting these to YouTube so that you can rewatch them. But that's not the point of these, right? The point of these is a live interactive event, and I understand a lot of people can't make it. But the point, I like seeing people's faces and engaging and building relationships with their customers. So really happy to have you here today. Today's topic is going to be focused on how to print on canvas. How do we print on canvas, and how do we print on canvas bags? Serafin, are we good to go in studio?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Wonderful. We can hear you loud and clear.
Right.
Guys, Serafin, for those of you who don't know him, Serafin is a backbone, a spine of this operation. He is the manager of tech at OmniPrint International. He's a very busy man. So, Serafin, we appreciate you taking the time today to come help give value to our customers, man.
No problem. My pleasure. I know when we started this, a little over a month ago, we started off with like 20 people, and I know we've gotten up to 63, 70, and our goal is to get up there to the 200 plus, right? To make sure that we deliver the value. I'm glad that Etzel's not here. We can do better without Etzel anyway. So.
Wow.
No, I'm just kidding. I love that guy. Learned a lot from him, and the reason why I know a lot of the stuff I know is because of him. So I love the fact that he's a big part of this as well every week, being able to bring you guys up to speed with some of your questions, suggestions. And I know one of the things was printing on tote bags and printing on canvas. The tote bags we do have, actually, Ryan. We did have time to get some together and get ready to go to print. So one of the most important things when it comes to canvas or tote bags is making sure that you know whether or not you're going to have a white underbase, right? If you're going to have a white underbase on there, you're going to use dark cotton pretreatment. If you're not, you can use light cotton pretreatment. Same rules apply as a t-shirt, right? So if it's a white shirt, light cotton. If it's a black, dark cotton. And we go with cotton because of the texture of it, right? The thickness of it. On the canvas bags or tote bags, and on canvas, you want to make sure that you're always looking at the thickness of it, right? Some canvases are a little thicker, some tote bags are thicker, some are thinner. So that's going to make an adjustment on how much pretreatment you're going to apply, right? No different than with your regular shirts, right? The thicker the shirt, a little bit more pretreatment you're going to put. The thinner the shirt, probably a little less, right? And you got to find and play with it to ensure that you find that good stage of pretreatment. Pretreatment, we talk about it all the time. That's key, right? That's the most. That's kind of your foundation of getting a great print. The canvas and the tote bags were pre-treated before we started. So we did, however, manage to get a recording of both with a spray gun and with a pre-treater, and then also how you would dry a canvas, right? Because it's a little different, or an actual canvas part or the actual bag. So let me show you the tote bag that we have here, and then the canvas. So the tote bag that we have here is similar to a almost canvas feel, right, to it. But as you can see, I think if it might be a little bit too difficult, but these are see-through, right? Like they're real thin, right? So I'm not going to use a whole lot of pre-treatment on these. Probably going to spray the top, the bottom, and top to bottom, bottom to top, to make sure that I give it a nice pass. Maybe I'd go another quick pass across, and that would be it. Even though I'm going to use a white underbase on this. Actually, I pre-treated a couple of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a print on with a white underbase and then one without, so that you guys can see the difference with that as well. We do have this canvas, right? These are the regular 8 by 10, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sorry, 16 by 20, right? Yeah, I think it's 16 by 20. The canvas is a little different, right? This is, as you can see, it's completely white, right? So we're going to use light pre-treatment on this one. And what we're going to do is when we pre-treat it, it's just going to be a light pass. It's a nice smooth spray across, right? If you have it on your DTD, you want to make sure that you make the adjustments on the shirt, right? That shows you where you're going to spray from, so that way it's not spraying your entire area. Because as you can see here, it doesn't cover the entire platen, and the platen is only 16 by 20, and your DTD is 18 by 23, I believe. So it's much larger than our platen here. So you want to make sure that you select it. Same thing with your tote bag. You want to ensure that you set up the tote bag the way it covers your DTD best. Now I'm going to use the platen here to kind of demonstrate the cutout, right? So as you guys can see here, you can see that at the edge of this tote bag, for example, it has a cutout, right? So it's going to spray pre-treatment here, and I don't want it to do that. So I want to try and find the best way for it to adjust. So if I have to pull it down or adjust it so that it goes a little further down to the edge, I'm going to do that to ensure that I'm not spraying the drawer, right, of the DTD. And as you can see, this tote bag's pretty big, right? It almost covers it actually does cover from end to end on a regular adult platen. It's important too that you know the size of your tote bag to know which platen you're going to use. Same thing with your canvas. So the canvas, as you can see, the one that I showed you, that one's completely flat. So I'm going to start off with the tote bag, right? So this one is obviously, I can use my adult platen, right? But I'm going to have to go through some special steps here. I'm going to have to be creative on how I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to come a little forward. I'm going to tuck it in only at the top, since as you can see, it won't cover all the way down. Then I want to make sure that I adjust it and make sure that I tuck it in. When I do that and I use the adult one, what could happen is that the bottom part of it is going to be lifted, which is what you can see here on the side. I don't know if you can see that. The area here is kind of curved, and you see this area here is lifted. I could try and tuck it in a little harder, right, and adjust that even more so that way it's nice and flat. But what usually works best is the youth or infant platen for these, which is what I'm going to use. And that is to ensure that I know that I have the area that I want to print on completely flat. But you can use the adult platen. You can use the adult platen, and you can also, when you see that something's all the way, that it's too far down, right, or that it's too far up, you can tape it, right? So you want to get creative. You want to make sure that you adjust properly, always nice and flat. You know, that's one of the biggest things that we talk about. You guys hear it all the time: head strikes, head strikes, head strikes. You can get them with tote bags and with canvases. Even though canvases are completely flat, you can still get a head strike, right, if you don't make the correct adjustment. You can use the adult platen, as I said. We're not going to use that today. We're gonna use the youth for our tote bag. Now, same thing, right, with the tote bag. When you get your area, right, I want to try and print in the center, right? That's my goal, right? Obviously, everybody else might want to print something else. They want to print at the very bottom. That you're going to have to adjust, right, and probably tape down, because if you're going to print on the edge of these tote bags, you're going to want to be careful, right? You want to make sure that height adjustment, right, that you get the highest point so that you don't get a head strike. Also, if there is an area that's lifted, that is going to become the highest point, and you might get overspray. So you want to be careful with that. So what I'm going to do to get my area nice and flat, I'm going to turn it 90 degrees, and I'm going to have it facing this way, which is one of the things that you can adjust on your rip. I know we've got some of those videos out there that show you how you can adjust it, and you'll see me do it here in just a moment. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tuck in the tote bag, get it nice and flat, get the area that I want to print in nice and flat. And it doesn't matter how many tote bags you've printed. I always tell customers to please get at eye level and make sure that it's nice and flat. If it's not getting flat, use your heat press and press it down a little more, right? So that you make sure that you don't get that head strike that we talk about. So for example, this one here, still a little high. So I want to make sure that I get it nice and tucked in, completely flat so that it doesn't lift. That's the one thing about tote bags, right? They have the inside of it, it's a bag, so it can get air in there, and when you're going to flatten it, it can lift up and make it very difficult for you to adjust and flatten it out as best as possible. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure that it's nice and flat, which it is, and we're going to go over to our RIP software and we're going to pick our design. All right, so now that we see that it's flat-ish, there's an area up here that I'm not liking too much, but my focus area is here, right? And we're going to turn the image around. So I'm going to make sure that that is my highest point when it comes to my tote bag, to ensure that I get the right print. So once I have it adjusted and everything tucked away, everything moved to the side, what I want to do now is I want to do a manual height adjustment. Anytime you're using anything other than if you're using our regular standard platen, you can do an automatic height adjustment. But manual height adjustment is the way to go. It takes you about the same amount of time as pressing function and rear and waiting for it to do its adjustment, but it's a lot more accurate. There's a gap in between your all other platens, and it gives us room for error there. So if we don't make a manual height adjustment, it can catch the light, it can catch a piece of lint, it can catch something else, a sensor, and now have you sitting too high or too low, which then can cause a head strike, right? So the way we do that is making sure that we press down, then front until you get to your highest point, then you press up. This one. All right, you press up until it stops, right? So the up button won't work anymore. Now, like I mentioned, this is the highest point that we have right now on the tote bag. So I'm actually going to go front a little bit, and you might hear it go up. Yeah, it's going up a little more. So that area right there is going to cause us some trouble. It's going to cause us to probably get a head strike. So what we want to do is readjust this, right? I want to probably bring it back this way a little more to make sure that we have it completely flat and that we don't run into any issues, especially during our creators live. That's the last thing we want is a head strike while we're having a creators live. Right?
That would be the absolute worst thing to
that would
happen
be
right now.
the worst. Yeah, but so that is nice and flat. I've been able to kind of adjust this here and get the area that's getting air out, so that way the bag is not, it's sitting completely flush. Perfect. All right, now we're gonna try this again. Go front, and a little bit more front. So you usually want to scan 3 areas, right? So you want to scan the back, the middle, and the front. And then if you're ever worried of whether or not you're going to get a head strike, you can always press function and up wherever you're at. If you do the height adjustment and you press, if you go down and then press up until it stops, right? It's not going up anymore. And I press function and up, it's going to undock my print head. Now I can get at eye level here and I can double check to make sure that it's not going to hit. And I can see it that it's perfect. It's right where it needs to be. So I'm not going to have any issues with my print head hitting. You can also manually move it, right? You can move it over to the far end and look at the middle, right? And then look at the back. And then you can also align yourself so that you can see the back of the platen to make sure that it is completely flat and that it's not going to hit it when it's starting to print the further part, right? You can bring that closer. hit function, redock it. Now we're gonna hit, we wanna make sure that it initiates, that it's back on, hit standby so that it goes all the way up to the print ready position, and now we're ready to print. So now we're gonna come over to our rip, and we're going to make our adjustments here on, actually pick a design first. We want to pick a design. Let's grab this one here. Grab that eagle, right? And so I'm going to try and bring the computer a little closer just because we don't have the extra zoom lens. And then I want to have the two windows that I like to have up, which is the channel palette, and that just tells us what we're using, and then our Q rip, which gives us our sizing, the most important one, right? So now I know that my toddler platen is no larger than 10 inches in width and 13.5 inches in length. I do not need to make any adjustments on the pallet size. I leave it standard. Right? I don't make any adjustments there. The platen has already been centered for us. That's why it has those gaps in the middle and it has that gap at the far end. So it's been moved all the way to the front and adjusted already so that we don't need to make that adjustment to it. After we know what the size is, then what we want to do is we want to make sure that we size it correctly, right? So if we see 12.5 by 12.5, then that size there is too large, and it's going to affect our print, right? It's not going to print, it's going to print on the entire tote bag, but it's going to miss a whole lot of area. It's going to spray outside of the tote bag as well. So we want to make sure that it's under 10 inches in width and under 13 inches in length, right? So we're going to make this one, let's go 8.5, right? So it's going to be 8.5 by 8.5 since this one's centered. One thing that I did mention to you guys in the beginning was that I rotated my image or my tote bag, right? So I rotated it to be to the left of the printer. So I want to rotate that under image, right? So if I go to image and then rotate 90 degrees, now my image is turned, actually I went the wrong way, so I'm going to go the opposite direction and go to image, 90 degrees CCW. So that way it turns it counterclockwise. And always, before you even keep going through your print setup, you can always go to your print preview to make sure that your image is exactly the way you want it. And this is the way you want it. Since I have the tote bag facing away from the keypad, then that's the way the image we want it to print. It's going to start to print from the very top, as you see here. Now our margins here are going to be a little bit different too, right? Because now I need to put margins from the top, and I also need to put margins from the far left. So the way we do that is when we go to the setup. Now I'm going to select the position, right? Sorry, since I made the adjustment, the first thing we want to do is we want to select the environment, which is, we're going to select dark cotton. And now we need to make the adjustment back down to size to 8.5 by 8.5. And then we're going to position it. So we're going to position it to be top center. We're telling it that we're going to start printing from the very top. That's why we don't need to make the adjustment on the platen size, because it already knows the centered area, and it's going to start printing right at the center of the platen since it's already been centered for you. That's the way our platens are made. So they're already centered. You don't need to change anything. Here you can go ahead and select your port now. And now this is where we go and we select our properties, right? So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to bring that eagle down a little further, right? But remember, we only have 13 inches in length, right? So we want to make sure that our image is 8.5, right? So we don't want to go any further than what? 4.5 inches, right? If we go 4.5 inches, that's 13 inches, right? So you add the margins plus your image, that's how big or the area that it's going to move to and how far down it's going to print. So we want to make sure that we don't go too far down. So we are going to select 2 inches from the top, so that way the part of the eagle starts to print 2 inches from the top of the platen. And now this left side here, right? This margin is the area that I'm going to pick so that our eagle or the free jet area comes out a little bit, right? So that it doesn't print on the edge. Now we can select about a 1/4 inch, right? And we want to hit OK. OK. I'm going to leave all the settings regular. The last thing I'm going to add is my white underbase choke. Hit OK. And now I want to print preview this, right? To make sure that it's where I want it to print. Once I go there, we see that it moved from the top, and then it also moved away from the left side of the platen, right? So this is where I want it to print. When you see this entire image here, this is 18 inches, right? So it's not taking into account that the platen technically ends right around here, right? So this is pretty centered. This is where you want your image to be for this particular one. We're going to go ahead and exit out of there. We know that our height adjustment is good, and now we're going to go ahead and print. It's going to print the first layer, right, which is our white underbase. I'm going to go ahead and you always want to click OK. It's going to print our white underbase first, and then come back and print our color. And it's always a good idea, even though you've printed on a tote bag before, it's a good idea to get in the habit of getting at eye level as it's printing to ensure that it's not going to hit, right? That you're going to be good, right? You want to see it start to lay down the white underbase. All right, so here you're going to start to see, right? It's going to lay down the white underbase because I'm using the white underbase. And now the other thing that you can look at is the height, right? To make sure that your image is not, that your tote bag is not touching your print head, because that is the most important part, is making sure that it doesn't hit your tote bag. You get a head strike there, we can end up having problems. $1,300 mistake. We have it set to layer B, so it's going to come right back and print the color right away.
Hey, Serafin, I got Henry here. Henry's wondering why you are using an underbase.
The reason why I'm using an underbase is because I want to make sure that I get the colors a little bit more. On this particular tote bag, it's not fully white, so I want to get those colors to pop a little more, right? I don't have to, though, Henry. You could go without a white underbase and you could just print the color layer. Adjust your settings appropriately so that you make sure that it prints just the way you want it to. But I've seen it print better with a white underbase. And this starts to become more of a personal preference at that point, right? Is if you like the way it comes out, right? And you want to save on a little bit of, number one, time and money with white, you can make that adjustment. But it's personal preference. I just like it with the white underbase. It just, colors to me look a lot better. But I have seen there's adjustments that you can make where you can just lay down color by itself and you get a nice clean image as well, a nice vibrant color.
Denzel, go ahead, unmute yourself.
I actually print on canvas now, but I'm trying to get better at it. So that's why I tuned in to see you guys live. So
awesome. Well, welcome.
One thing I did learn with printing on canvas is making sure that the pre-treat is really, really dry once it's on there. And I just make sure I take my time painting it and just making sure it's covered all the way through and evenly.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And he's right. You know, you want to make sure that it's completely dry. And you'll feel the coat almost like kind of like when you dry the shirt, right? One of the things that I sometimes worry about the tote bags or the canvas is if the pre-treatment isn't laid down completely or dried up completely, you'll start to kind of see sweat around it, and obviously you'll see these swirls and you'll start to see kind of different effects. You'll almost look like sometimes even overspray. It'll kind of look like that, but in reality it's just the ink expanding because it's not completely dry, right? But as you can see, right, we got a good white solid underbase, and we also got a good print on the tote bag there. So this
Awesome.
is
Can you hold that up closer, Serafin?
yeah, sure.
A
So
little closer to the camera.
this is what one of the ways to do it. But like Henry had mentioned, you don't have to use the white underbase. It just depends on the tote bag itself, right? Whether or not you like it, I mean, whether or not it's a little thicker, you might be able to just do a color layer, right? And just put a light coat of color, right? And then just change the settings. I'm gonna move this to the side because I want to make sure that it doesn't drip.
Cool. I'm going to go ahead and
canvas.
bring another person in while you're doing that.
Sure.
Anna, you are up. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
There we go. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. So I actually have printed a fair amount on canvas now, and the biggest thing that took a time dialing in was once we figured out the coding, ink density. It's a lot lower than you think.
Yes.
I was often at 30% or 15 to 30% at the most on full coverage.
Thank you so much for bringing that up because you're completely correct when it comes to that. Yeah, when you go into these thicker canvases, right? You definitely want to make sure that you lower that color strength. Color strength needs to be like she said, down in 30, 30 or below, depending on the canvas itself. You just got to make sure that you make the adjustments. The canvas versus the tote bag is a little different, right? So this one, you might get away with just regular settings, but you may also need to make adjustments on the color, right? It just depends on the tote bag itself. I've gotten good results with these tote bags with our regular settings, white underbase, no white underbase. Either way, I don't know if anybody wants to know what the brand is. These are American Apparel, right? So these are American Apparel tote bags that we've used here, and they work perfect. A nice clean or nice coating, right? But like she said, we got to get this part down first. We got to make sure that we have the pre-treatment on right before our prints come out the way we want them to come out. So we want to make sure that we make those adjustments, right? So normally what I would suggest to a new customer that's going to be printing on a tote bag or on canvas is make sure that you have one to spare and practice, whether it's small prints, right, all over the place, right? Maybe pre-treat half of it a certain way, pre-treat the other half maybe with a little less or a little more, and then do two prints on each side, then flip it around and now try something different, right? Until you adjust the settings. The cool thing about the tote bag or the canvas is that you can just go in there and write on it, right? I use settings such and such, right? On this one. I changed this on this one. I use dark cotton pre-treatment on this one, and your drying process until you see the one that you like. So it's always a great idea to practice, right? Practice, practice, practice. Always have that extra one on hand. Before we move over to the canvas, Ryan, is there anybody else that may have had a question that I may have missed?
So that's an adult platen, correct?
This one here, yes.
Yes.
This one that's here is an adult platen. The one that I use for the tote bag is a youth platen.
Got it. There we go. And then Terrence, I don't think you meant to do this, but Terrence was asking in the Q&A, how do you cut down on color density?
Oh, so when you go into your rip, when you come right here, where it says color strength, right? I know it might be a little hard for you guys to see it because we don't have the zoom in camera here, but the color strength right there, you want to adjust that to 30 or below, especially when you're printing on canvas or even on tote bags. You want to go down a little further just to make sure that you get the right setting. Too much ink will expand as well. So what we're going to do is print on canvas. If we don't got any other questions on the platen size.
Nope, I think we're good there. Isaro Orbi, I apologize if I'm butchering that. We are not going to talk about DTF this week, but we are, ladies and gentlemen, going to be talking about DTF next week. Just a little bit of a teaser for you, because I know all of y'all are wondering about it. We're going to talk about that next week. But yeah, go ahead, Serafin.
All right. When you're doing the canvas, right, you want to make sure you got a couple different ways of doing it. You can tape it down so that it doesn't move, right? Like stick it, what do they call it? The double-sided tape. So you can stick it to the platen, right? The other thing you can also do is actually you could technically remove the platen. I've gotten some tips from customers where they remove the platen and they lay it on the table, depending on the thickness though. Sometimes if it's not thick enough, it won't go far up, it won't go high enough. So I'd be careful doing that one there. Just, it's a tip that I got from a customer that they use these huge, insane thick ones, right? But it's because of the frame that they're sitting on. So sometimes there might be too thick with sitting it on a platen. This one isn't, right? So I would probably tape it down. I didn't bring tape. So we're going to make sure that I don't mess this up, right? So what I'm going to do here is I want to line it up as best as possible with the platen. And now this is for customers that, right, sometimes on the fly, right, since we are print on demand, right, when we have our DTG, and customers can bring you something here, something similar to this last minute, and you may not know how you can do it, and you may not have the stuff, and they want it done right away, and you're charging them an insane amount of money, and you don't want to lose out on that sale. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the front of the platen to align myself, right, and try and do the best I can to adjust it and see the sides, right? This is pretty much eyeballing it. Then you also want to make sure and you know the size of your canvas to ensure that you have it sized up. So measure it, right? We should always have a ruler so that we know where we're going to print. All right, my area of focus again is going to be the middle area. The canvas that we're using was already is flat enough and big enough. We can use the adult platen to kind of stick it. Usually what I would do is grab double-sided tape, right? Go all the way around here and grab my area that I'm going to put it on and stick it down, right? And then make sure that you tape it down. You'll get better as you go along, right? When it comes to these canvases. And I'm sure there's a lot of you that already have a bunch of tips and tricks that we'll probably go over with everybody once I'm done here. So once you got your area kind of pushed all the way down, you really want to avoid doing it the way I'm doing it right now, because like I mentioned, when your print head is going back and forth, it can slide just even a breeze, right? The movement of the carriage, right? It can just get a little bit of a breeze, move it, and then now it can move like so, and now you've ruined your canvas. So you want to make sure that you have it taped down or secured somehow, or if it is one of those thicker ones, right, with the thicker frame, then you can even remove the platen completely. So I think I am as centered as I'm gonna get here. And then same thing, even though it's flat, right, I still want to do a manual height adjustment. I've moved it. It's not the same exact size of the platen, so I've had to move it a little bit. And like I said, any gaps in between the sensors and the area that you're printing can cause you to miss something. And same thing, we want to make sure that we press down until our area is below the sensor, right? And now we want to press front, press up until it stops, right? And then go front a little more, press up, and it's not going up, front a little more, up. So this one is really flat, right, when it comes to these canvases here. And then the same thing is what we did with the tote bag, right? You can press function and up just so that you can get at eye level and make sure that it's not going to hit and it looks perfect. So we're going to move it back. All right, we're going to hit standby. So we have it in the print ready position. Now this one we are going to print in white. So because we did use light cotton pre-treatment on this one, on the tote bag, like I mentioned before, we used dark cotton. If you can switch it over to the camera phone, perfect. I'm gonna try and make it so that you guys can see, because on this one we are gonna adjust the color strength, right? So we're gonna change the environment to white cotton. We're gonna lower the color strength here. You see it at 65, which would be too much. So I'm gonna bring it down to 30. That's the most common one that we use. The sizing on this, I'm gonna keep it the same, 8.5. And I'm also gonna position it top center. We're gonna go to our settings to select our port and then our margins, right? This is where measuring comes into place, right? You want to know the size of your plan so that, or the canvas, right? So that you know exactly how far down you want to go. So I know it's not 18 inches in length because the canvas is shorter by about 2 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it down about 2, right? So 2 inches should bring it pretty darn close to the centering. I'm going to hit OK, and then OK again. So on anything else that you may want to do with this, you may want to adjust. You can go into further settings on this as well, which we'll talk about after. But I'm going to leave them as normal when it comes to resolution and all that good stuff, which we can talk about in a second here. I'm going to leave it with just dropping the color strength down to 30. Right, which you do from the color strength. Everything else on the settings stays the same. We don't want the color strength there to be too much and then kind of look, like I mentioned, overspray. A big important thing when it comes to the canvas here is that you want to make sure that it is completely dry, just like one of our customers mentioned, right? If that isn't dry, it's going to cause us to have issues with the way the print looks at the end, right? One way when it comes to these canvases that have the frames on them, you want to make sure you hover over it until you feel that it's dry. And then the more and more that you do them, then it'll make it easier for you to actually know, this is my time, and you can set a setting up, right? So now that we have it ready, we're going to go up here and we're going to hit print, and we're going to hit OK. And now again, when you come up to your printer, you want to make sure that you get it eye level, right? You want to get it eye level to watch it and make sure that it doesn't move, and you got your sea fog ready here to make sure that if it is moving or anything happens, you can press down and make the proper adjustments. Now, the only thing that I did wrong on this one is that I use the white image one, which I should have gone with the black. I should have changed the image because it's printing white, right? Since the letters at the top are white. But you can see it, how it's printing the white. If we can switch over to the camera one, that'd be great. You can see here that it's printing the white layer over it, right? But there you go. And it's coming across nice and smooth. You can see those colors nice. Now, if we would have had it at 65, you would have seen almost bleeding on the canvas itself, right? So you always want to make sure that you have the correct image up there, number one. But still coming out good, even though it's printing white. Get that nice eagle look, that brown. While it's finishing up printing, what is recommended color strength for cotton tees? Oh, for cotton tees is for white, it would be 65 is the recommended strength, color strength.
I'm going to go ahead and patch in Ruben Munoz here to ask a live question.
Sure.
Ruben, go ahead, unmute yourself.
What's up, brother? How are you,
Is this
sir?
Ruben?
This is Big Dog Ruben. What's
Hey,
up,
what's
man?
up, Ruben? How are you, buddy?
Hey, man. First of all, let me say thank you to you and to Victor, and also to Kevin for opening up time for me. My prints have just gotten like 10x, man. way better now.
Love it.
In regards to canvas, I'm really good at canvas printing, and my settings are similar to yours. My question, because I came in a little bit late, what kind of pre-treatment are you using on the canvas? And then for curing purposes, how do you cure? Because when
Sure.
I cure, I've had like immaculate prints. I mean, really good prints, but then like the drying of it can be challenging. Where I've lost money on the canvas because like I put my finger on it and then it appears dry. If I touch it, it appears dry, but when I like rub it just a little bit, it complete like it'll lose color. So
Yeah.
it destroys the image. And I want to know, is there a solution for that, or is that something that we need to just warn our customers about and let them know?
So that's a great question, Ruben. So when it comes to drying, each canvas or tote bag might be a little different again, right? Depending on the thickness, right? So the tote bag itself, I would dry it pretty much like a t-shirt. The same way I would dry a t-shirt is the same way I would dry a tote bag. Low pressure, around 280 degrees to 320, depending on the type of canvas or the fabric that they use, or the thicker. And then I want to go in 90, maybe in actually in 60-second increments to ensure that the ink isn't eating through, right, completely. Same thing with the canvas. Now with the canvas, right, this was too thick, so what you want to do is you're going to hover over it just the same way that you hover when you dry it. Now, I know you asked another question there, is what pretreatment I use. So on the tote bag, I use a dark pretreatment because I printed a white underbase on it. On this canvas here, I use light pretreatment, and just because I use just a regular color, right? And the strength, obviously, at 30% on this one. The tote bag, I use regular settings because it's almost like a cloth. The tote bag is almost like a cloth there. So I did set it at regular settings, didn't change anything on that one. But yeah, those are great questions. So in other words, to answer the second part question, yes, it's going to probably vary. Because right now, if I were to touch this, yes, I'm going to smear it, right? But if I go and I dry it and I hover over it, right, and I keep the heat press, right, right at level there where it's not touching it either, right, because we want to make sure that it's drying the ink. You can always lay down a sheet as well over it when you're hovering over your canvas or over your tote bag. You can put, obviously on the tote bag, since it's nice and flat, I would use the craft sheet. On the canvas, it's preference, whether or not you would want to just hover over it with the heat press, or if you want to put a sheet over it and dry it. And you also go in 60-second increments just to check it. You may need to do it 2-3 times, right? 60 seconds after you pull it up, you want to look at it, and you'll start to see kind of like, not the glossiness, but you'll start to see the ink kind of fade out. Like right now it's starting to dry because we also have the fan on in here, but I can see that the ink is drying around kind of like where you see the shield of the eagle. There's a little bit of a glare there, but it's starting to go away just by us sitting here because the fan is helping it. But yeah, you're going to want to hover over on your canvases and on your tote bags. Use them, dry them just like a regular shirt, right? Put a sheet over it, low pressure, 60-second increments, 2 to 3 times.
Perfect. All right, we are going to go and take one more question from Anna, and then we'll go ahead and close up shop here. So Anna, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi.
Welcome.
I'm back.
Hey,
Okay.
Anna.
It's actually kind of a double 2 questions on this. Or at least in my experience, the canvas board, you have to really watch the bowing on them, and it's also you actually have to. Have you used or printed on canvas board versus just framed canvas? Canvas board is usually cardboard covered in canvas. And
Gotcha.
so so there's always a little corner up that you have to worry about leveling, but you also have to change your density because for some reason it's actually a harder surface than your framed canvas. For production, we have actually been doing a finish coating on it, so we don't have a customer walk away with it and accidentally rub it, because no matter how many times you tell them, it'll happen. So we've tried a couple of things. We've tried a spray coating that also brings back the color depth. Because like you noted, when you dry, your blacks and all your colors raise, you get your color depth. And I've actually ended up using like a decoupage semi-gloss coating, and it comes out beautiful. And it's
okay.
basically, it's almost like a glue type product.
Oh,
It seals it, right? It just seals the
some people,
print.
yeah, it actually creates a seal, which
Yep.
means it's also water resistant.
Yep.
And but it
Gotcha.
also enhances the color depth back, that what you lose when it dries, because a lot of the
okay.
blacks will go gray.
Yeah, she's right. Yeah, when you cure, right, depending on it, you can have it kind of go down. So the coating that she's using, maybe you can throw it in there for us on the comments, and you can share that with us. I'm sure probably Etzo or somebody else here has used it. It's a coating that pretty much seals it. It's kind of like covering it up, just like Ruben and her were talking about, right? The customer's gonna touch it and it's gonna smear if it's not completely dry. So yeah, we want to be careful with that. But great questions.
Good
Thank you.
stuff. Thank you, Anna. Appreciate it.
Great suggestions, Anna. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. It is 4:59 my time, 2:59 Pacific time, and whatever other time on the East Coast. And we are out of time. And it has been an hour of awesome information. Serafin, again, we appreciate you as always coming in and delivering value for us. Real quick house cleaning. How many of you went to the Creators Business Bootcamp? I mean, hopefully a good chunk of you did, right? Because it was last Saturday. It was awesome, and with like the event, the energy of the event was amazing. And so we're gonna do 2 more of those this year, and the next one's gonna be 2-3 times bigger than what we just had here. So we're really excited about that. But as a part of it, and I know a few of you here have already taken a hold of this. We are going to be doing a marketing mastermind course. Okay, so it's going to be, and I don't know of anybody here that doesn't need help with marketing to some degree. We rolled this out at the end of this last Creators Business Bootcamp, and we had several dozen people sign up for it in a matter of 45 minutes. Because what it's going to be a 4-hour session with yours truly, working specifically on the marketing strategy behind your business. We're going to cover everything from top of funnel, like how do I generate traffic to the site, middle of the funnel, how do I create a story and a product experience that is compelling, that drives direct response action, and then we're going to talk about strategy at the bottom of the funnel to simply how do we convert these customers and then retain them long term. So I'm going to post a link to that in the chat. We are not going to be offering this through email. We are not going to be offering this in the owners group. So take a look at it. It's going to be a 4-hour session. It's going to happen, I'm looking at like end of May. And if you feel like you just need a little touch up on your marketing strategy for your business to go from where you are today to scale, highly recommend that you take a look at that. Because again, you will not be seeing this anywhere else. We're going to be doing a lot of market masterminds, generally speaking. And so I want to make sure you guys get in on that. There you go. Link is in the chat for you to have a peek. Last but not least, next week's going to be a big one. Anybody who's in this group or in the owners group, or anybody who's in direct to garment printing has been seeing and hearing about the buzz of direct to film transfers, right? Everybody here has been hearing about that, right? And everybody here is probably wondering, like, well, what's OmniPrint going to do about it? Well, we are going to talk about that next week, and we've got some really cool stuff coming to you next week. My guess is it's going to be probably the largest Creators Live we've done yet. And we've got some really, really interesting things. So make sure you are here and come ready, because what a lot of people don't know is that you can indeed use your FreeJet TX and your TX Plus for DTF printing. How many people knew that? Maybe some people did, maybe some people didn't. A lot of you probably do. But we're going to talk about that specifically. It's going to be action-packed. It's going to be 30 minutes of coaching, and then we're going to be rolling something out for you all at that point. So sign up for the Marketing Mastermind. I want to spend time with you. I want to know your businesses. I want to help you guys grow and scale. We normally charge a lot of money for these types of things when you get time with Vic and I. And we're going to spend 4 hours with you guys in an intimate group. We're going to unpack your entire business, your entire strategy, and drill down and improve. And you're going to walk away with some actionable tactics from that. Again, you sign up for it today. We're going to do it sometime towards the middle of May. So you got time. All right. That's it. We're good to go. I hope you all have, what was that?
Can I steal 30 seconds?
Yes, please.
All right. So there's also something, kind of a teaser here, that we haven't shared yet, but it's something that we want to start offering customers. It's not only just for the ones that have 3, 4, 5, 6 printers, 12 printers and cheetahs, right? We want to offer it to everybody. But shortly here, we're going to be offering something that's going to be called a tech training for your employees, right? So for those of you that have 2, 3, 4, 5, multiple machines, and you want to know more and how to dig into your machine itself, we'll be having either on-sites or coming in here or doing them over the video, where we're going to show you how to work on your machine, look at certain parts of it, and make sure that you have kind of like an in-house tech, right? Training your employees. So watch out for that. We're almost done getting everything situated there, so that way you guys can also have somebody a peace of mind when you're working on the machines, and having somebody that knows exactly what they're doing with it. So training tech is what we're going to call it, I guess. Yeah.
Amazing. We're going to be doing a lot of this stuff, and there's no better person to lead that side of things than you, Serafin. So appreciate you doing that. I know you guys are working really hard. You guys have a wonderful week. Okay. Talk soon. See you guys. Bye.